what is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another edition of the Countdown to the Geekcast. My name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me on this episode, it's been a while, is the founder of the Star Wars Stuff podcast, the one, the only, David. What's going on, sir?
I'm still David. It's a deep cut, Dune deep cut right there.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We have been gone a while, and it's not for any other reason than we've been incredibly busy. Um, all the groups across the board. And if you haven't realized, if this is your first time watching us, welcome. We are the Countdown City Geeks Network. We have count them, six separate outlets right now, and the first 2 months of 2024 have been jam packed with events, and we've been having business meetings. We've been making deals with people. We've been interviewing actors, directors, writers, wrestlers, like all across the board. 2024 is shaping up to be probably our busiest year ever, and I'm not complaining. I will never complain, and everybody's just so busy. So, welcome to the Geekcast once again. All that to say, we got a great show for you guys. We're going to be talking at the end of the show about Dune, the sequel, part two. This is going to be a non-spoiler review, so don't worry if you haven't seen it yet. Of course, you haven't, unless you've been lucky enough to be part of the advanced screenings or the fan screenings that took place on Sunday. So if you have seen it, you don't need to worry about it. Just hear what we got to say. If you haven't seen it yet, we're not going to spoil anything for you, so don't worry about it. We also are going to be talking about some geeky weekly headlines. But before I get to that, we got to give a shout out to our sponsor, the great folks over at Real Retro. Awesome. If you haven't been to Real Retro, they are at the Eisenhower Flea Market. It's like 5,000 square feet of just retro items and collectibles, merchandise, apparel, anything you can think of from all your favorite fandoms from the 70s, 80s, and the 90s. Go check it out. I highly recommend it. I have a few things from their store. You can't see it. I got a terror dog right here. He's kind of tiny, but anyways, check them out. They're awesome. Before we get to our first headline of the week, I have to talk about the giveaways. I promised I was going to do a giveaway, so here it is, okay? For our followers in San Antonio and Houston, we have another movie pass, another advanced screening to give passes away to. So, well, without further ado, we are giving away advanced screening tickets to Arthur the King, which features Mark Wahlberg, Simu Liu. It's a great cast, and also, oh, it's about a dog. So you gotta love that. If you aren't sure about it, head on over to our website. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat, and you guys can even watch the trailer on the Countdown to the Geeks.com website. How about that? Honestly, film looks incredible. If you haven't seen the trailer yet, please go check it out. This is going to be an advanced screening, which is free, but seating is limited, so you're going to want to arrive early. How early, Ted? Well, I would be there at least 2 hours before the movie starts
Who
because
said that?
I like to play it safe. I like to play it safe. But you guys can gamble if you like to, but it's absolutely free. Shout out to our the studio. Forget what studio it is that's actually putting this one on. Think it's, I don't want to guess and get it wrong. So just check it out,
Major Hollywood
guys.
studio.
Yes, Major Hollywood Studio. Go check it out. It's gonna be awesome. The trailer looks emotional, profound. So I can't wait. I want to see it. All right. Whew. We need to get to some geeky weekly headlines, and I haven't said that phrase in quite a while. But the first one is a doozy, and Dave, I'm actually glad you're here because this first headline is gonna maybe shock some people when I bring it up. So, Star Wars is what David's specialty is. He's all about Star Wars, and this year is a big year for Star Wars because I know Episode One is celebrating. Is it the 20th anniversary, 25th?
25th.
25th anniversary, and now we have one of the stars of Episode One making a social media post. So, Dave, would you please give us your reaction to Ahmed Best wearing a mocap saying, "I'm back, baby"? What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, he did tag Activision, so it's looking like it's probably a game, but he also put the hashtag Sith Lord, which is kind of like an urban legend that Jar Jar was a Sith Lord the whole time, and he was like the main Sith Lord behind the scenes, and it's been like an ongoing possible conspiracy theory that a lot of Star Wars fans have. Shout out to Colin, by the way, on Star Wars Stuff Podcast. He always likes to point that out. But yeah, of course, Ahmed Best is famous for portraying the very first CGI motion capture live action CGI creature um, in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace 25 years ago almost. And yeah, I mean, Ahmed Best, he had a lot of ridicule for playing that particular character back then, but right now he's just tremendously loved. All the prequels have nothing but love. I'm glad he's back. He's one of those actors I think that should always be back in the fold doing Star Wars stuff. He's part of the family. I mean, he acted in three prequels and three Star Wars main Skywalker saga films, and handpicked by George. And he's a really cool guy. He does Star Wars celebrations, and we just want him back. And he also played a couple of other characters as well, aside from Jar Jar. He was actually one of the patrons in Attack of the Clones next to Anthony Daniels at the bar at the very beginning of that film. And he's also Kelleran Beck, who we saw rescue Grogu. Spoiler alert for Mando season 3 there. But yeah, he's a Jedi. He's a Gungan. He's awesome. So yeah, that just dropped a while ago, and I just posted it, and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I love all the hashtags.
So, do we know which Activision project this is? You want to take a guess?
I don't really want to take a guess. I'm not really that. I mean, I'm way more into gaming than a normal person, but I don't know what project he's referring to.
I almost feel
Um,
like he probably shouldn't have tagged Activision.
yeah, it feels like it might have been an oops there. I don't know. It's I don't know. He's wearing the classic mocap suit with the dots. It looks like kind of an older suit, but he does have the paint on the face, which has the motion tracking for that camera that's extended around his head there, which
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of Andy Serkis do that for Gollum and Snoke as well.
Well, I can't imagine what this project's going to be. It's got to be a video game because he tagged Activision. I can't imagine they would be into a film or anything else like that,
Yeah.
unless it's not their technology, right? That's
No, the big gaming news right now is the possible respawn Mandalorian game that might feature Din Djarin and Grogu, and I know that's kind of resurfaced with the new film Mandalorian and Grogu, and it seems very strange that they never dropped a video game of them two until just news recently broke that they're looking to do that for respawn.
gotcha.
And Lucas Arts, which I think we all grew up with and was kind of famous back in the day, that disbanded once Disney bought Lucasfilm, and now it's Lucasfilm Games, and now they're trying to get that going, and it's been slow, just like the films, it's been slow going. So I don't know, it could be something new and exciting unannounced. I'm not aware of any Activision game per se involving Jar Jar. So
Yeah. So it's got to be. I'm trying to think here. So is it? is it possible? What do you think is more likely? We're getting a game post episode 3 that includes Jar Jar, because that's just a Vader game, right? But then why would Jar Jar be in it?
Right, right.
There's not many Jedis around. I mean, Ahsoka's around. This is an Ahsoka game. Does Ahsoka run into Jar Jar? Do we have any canon where Ahsoka runs into Jar Jar between episode, like post
I don't
episode
think
3?
they run into each other, but we did get a little bit of confirmation. Um, when Disney bought Lucasfilm, they established that all the novels that they would release after a certain date in April, I believe of 2014, were all going to be mainline canon. And there's a trilogy of books called Aftermath, and it kind of detailed a little bit what happened with Jar Jar after the prequels, and he basically became like a street performer on Naboo, I believe, either Naboo or Tatooine.
I believe
But
it.
anyways, yeah, that's all we got from mainline canon about Jar Jar. But of course, now we know that some of the novels can be changed by Filoni in live action. So,
My
um,
my my guess, we're getting an Ahsoka video game, or if it's anything post episode, if it's anything, then I think Ahsoka is the focus. It's not Yoda. I don't think. I think we're kind of past Yoda. So I say it's Ahsoka. It's post Revenge of the Sith. She's making a life for herself, running away from the Empire, which is taking a hold of the galaxy. I can't imagine it's anything post sequel trilogy. I don't think they would do anything post sequel trilogy. Um, I we just got to forget the sequel trilogy, and that's not a knock on anyone who likes it. I think there are some things to enjoy about it, but we just need to focus on like what the series are doing right now, all this stuff right now, and then we also need to, you know, the shows that are coming out pretty soon, the movie that's coming out in the future. Those are the focus right now. But yeah, I'll go with Ahsoka game. I'm not gonna place any bets on it, but we'll go with that. Game of Thrones fans, we have yet another announced series in development. Not in development, already like greenlit. Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight, is coming in late 2025. Are you a big Game of Thrones fan, Dave?
yes and no. I'm a big fan of the live action stuff. The books I haven't read, and I'm kind of trying to stay away from the books because I
Mm.
think we'll talk about later with the whole Dune book stuff and Lord of the Rings and all the stuff that came before in print before we got it in live action. But the House of the Dragon, man, I loved it. It was just fantastic. They made all the right calls, all the right casting, the way they jumped around in time, and I
The
I
feet
loved. I mean.
fetishes.
Yeah, you can't forget the feet. But
Mm-mm.
yeah, I'm one of the rare people out there that liked the ending of Game of Thrones. It felt logical. It felt right. They didn't go with the whole cliche Jon Snow becoming king, which it seems like everyone wanted. But spoiler alert for Game of Thrones there. But yeah, this adventure of Dunk and Egg, essentially. I know that's the book that they're pulling from. It's a sequel to House of the Dragon, but it's a prequel to Game of Thrones. Is that correct? Or is that prequel to House of the Dragon? I think it's a prequel to House of the Dragon.
It might be a prequel to House as well. I think it's
Yeah,
really, really early on.
yeah, it's 100 years prior, and it's we go on an adventure with two characters.
Yeah, because House is already post the long night folklore. Like that's already in place. And I think Dunkin' Egg is like even
Yeah,
before that.
right.
Like when the what do you call it? Not the folklore, but the I forget what it's called, but still.
The, the winter.
Yeah, well, so the first long night that happened, and then they build
Oh,
the
okay. The wall.
yeah, all that stuff. So I think Dunkin' Eggs before that. But if anybody's in the chat who's
Yeah, that
read
I'm pretty
Those
sure it's way
books.
before then. I'm just not quite sure if it's before House of the Dragon.
I am
I
sure
think it
it's
might
before
be
House.
because I think one of the ancestors is Egg for he's either a Targaryen or a Lannister or something like that.
Yeah, it's really early on stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I think HBO is going to be fine with Game of Thrones stuff. I really do. I'm in. I like it. It will never be as good as the original series, which is fine though, because the original series, if you take out the last season and a half, is like top tier television. Every Sunday night, was it Sunday nights? Every Sunday night
Yep.
was an event to behold. Even season 7 has like some really highs for that show. So, come out with as much content as you want. I'm not going to complain. I feel like there is a lot more to dive into.
Yes, a
That
whole lot
that
more.
can be done. That can be done well. Like, yeah, there's a lot of story there, but I think there's enough compelling stories to still put out. So, I'm excited for any of that content. Next story, I'm a little on the fence. HBO is also going to be putting out their Harry Potter series in 2026. This is a complete reboot of the films, so it will not include, not to say that we don't get Daniel Radcliffe as like a teacher or something. If they do something like that, it could be confusing, but it would be a nice homage to pay to some of the characters if they brought them back as like other characters. Um, Daniel Radcliffe wouldn't be able to play Hagrid, for example, but maybe somebody else. But here's my thoughts on this. The movies are so good, it's almost nonsensical to come out with a TV show about
Totally disagree.
the books. Hear me out. Hear me out. The characters are cast flawlessly across the board. They didn't miss on anybody. None of the professors, none of the kids, the relatives, any of the villains. I mean, even some of Harry's peers in class. It's just like
Hmm.
I can't imagine anybody else playing some of those characters. Malfoy? Who the hell are they going to get to play Malfoy? Never
Oh
going to
man, there's so
happen.
many actors out there. But
No, not as good, not as good. I think that you're attempting something that's too great. It's too big of a bar to try not surpass. I don't think they're trying to outdo the movies. I think it's just too much of a bar to just get close to it and hit. I mean, everything from the set designs to the world building there in the movies. They went for the sky 1,000 times out of 1,000. So I feel like it's too much of a feat to come out with a series like this. If you're watching, give us your thoughts on the HBO Max Harry Potter series. If you're in or out. What about you, Dave?
so I think they can go better than what the movies were. The movies had,
Interesting.
yeah, I really do think so. They got to get top tier talent though. They got to get top tier writers. I would like for it to be a little darker. Um, I think there's an opportunity there to really outdo the films. I watched the films as an adult. I never really read the books. I've taken a peek in some of the books, and the writing is phenomenal by J.K. Rowling. I mean, no doubt. Very easy reads, very fast reads. I just never took the time to read the books. And there's a lot more detail, and there's a lot more that you can explore in a TV show. And a great casting director could do the job. I know there's a lot of uh, multiversal castings for some of the actors that played the actors that we got in the films, and they were actually pretty decent choices because there's a lot of English actors out there that I mean, there's I mean, just a multitude. I mean, there's more people on the earth now than there was before. So I mean, just with that alone, and then they're not affected by SAG. The SAG's going to hit another strike here allegedly pretty soon. So
Really? Wow.
that's what I'm hearing. Um, so that shouldn't affect the that production just like it didn't affect the House of the Dragon. So I mean I think they could reach for the stars, man. I mean reach for the stars. bring in the stars, bring in the best talent you possibly can, because this is the crown jewel of WB right here. I mean, I don't think they're gonna mess this up. They're gonna bring in top tier talent, and if it's as good as what they did with Game of Thrones, oh my gosh, man, we're back, and it could be even better. I think.
Here's listen, I am absolutely terrified
I
for
know.
whoever. No, 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 no. Let me finish. For whoever they get to play Harry Potter. Kid, you got some massive shoes to fill. And I don't think the internet, social media today is going to be merciful. Th- uh, It's not going to be pretty. And all power to him. I wish him the best of luck. But I can't think of a more beloved character in the last 20 years. Um, that was just like the perfect casting. It wasn't just the perfect casting, it was like the universe bringing Daniel Radcliffe to this franchise. Literally was. It was all just by happenstance. He wasn't even at the auditions to audition for himself. He was there with a friend and they were like, "Hey, how about you, kid? Do you want to audition as well?" And he's like, "Well, I guess I'm here. Why not?" And that's how it happened. It wasn't even like
I
he
don't
was
know if
aiming
I
for
believe
it.
that story. I think his parents were already in in the West End, like directing plays and stuff. So he was already aiming to be like,
But he had no, but no, he
yeah,
had no training before.
he
He
had
had
the
no.
genetics.
Oh, the genetics, I see, I see. But he had no previous work, like, that was
Right.
definitely his first movie ever, and anyways, so yeah, that's what, the story is on the Harry Potter series. One more story, and strangely enough, it's still with WB. Um,
Moving on up.
Superman Legacy has already began its pre-production. James Gunn and the entire cast have already conducted their table read of the film, which doesn't come out till next July. However, there were photos taken from this table read, and these photos included nameplates, and everybody was taking a picture of their nameplate. And lo and behold, the Superman Kingdom Come logo was predominantly displayed on each of these nameplates. So fans are now running wild with speculation that this Superman is going to be very different than anything we've seen before. If you're familiar with the Kingdom Come storyline, it's arguably one of the darker storylines in the Superman universe, comic verse. Um, lot of death, a lot of sorrow. Superman basically goes emo towards the end of that storyline, and this is that logo. So just no, it can't be happenstance. This is legitimate. James Gunn is going to be utilizing these storylines, right?
Well, there is a comic book run for Superman Legacy, right? And he's already kind of told us what the time frame the movie's going to take place. Clark Kent's already going to be employed at the Daily Planet. Lois Lane's going to be established, so he's going to be younger. We all know it's David Cornsweet playing Kal-El, Clark Kent, Superman. So he is younger. It might have just been, I like the logo. Let's just stick it on the stuff. We don't have our final logo yet. Might be that type of thing. I mean, it is the WB. They have rights to every piece of Superman nostalgia and merchandise and signage, so it could have just been as simple as that. So yeah, it doesn't match up with the Kingdom Come storyline. So, but it is
It
cool. It is a cool crest for him to wear. I mean, and that was one of the things I was thinking about. How are they going to redesign the S on his chest? Are they going to go with the redesign? Are they going to go Christopher Reeve classic? What are they going to do exactly? But I wouldn't be too mad with this. I mean, this is
yeah,
live action. We haven't seen it per se in live action. We saw it on Brendan
we
Routh.
have. Yeah, Brandon Routh
We've
wore it.
seen that.
Live
But
action, Kingdom
yeah,
Come,
well,
Superman.
I
He
mean,
nailed
yeah,
it
on TV.
on
On
TV.
TV.
On TV.
So, yeah. So I think, I mean, James Gunn, if he rolls with this, I'm fine with it. It's interesting. Um so yeah, I mean, I have no issues with it.
I have I have no like Star Wars nameplate, you having the First Order logo as opposed to the Empire, and like, you know, kind of
I think it's
never
apples and
hinting.
oranges. I mean,
Oh, I
there's
don't
so
think
many.
so.
I think so. There's so many different logos out there. I mean,
But this is specific. This is like you can't use this one without knowing its history. And James Gunn is a man who
right.
knows his comic history. So all I'm saying is I'm not mad about the idea
Hmm.
or not mad about him using it, but I think fans are going to be in for it if he's actually adapting some of these major plot points and story arcs of the Kingdom Come comic books. Don't want to give away any spoilers because there are some doozies. So fans, go grab a Kingdom Come comic if you want to know what they're about, or just look them up if you just want to do that. But I'm all for having dramatic and emotional comic book movies. I mean, James Gunn is probably the best, or one of the best at actually getting fans like emotionally invested in his movies. All of his Guardians films, emotionally invested, start to finish, like without a doubt.
Did you see the
Suicide
new?
Squad, probably not as Suicide Squad a little bit. I think I was emotionally invested a little bit in Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, did you see the new Guardians trailer?
What does that mean?
Guardians Volume 4. They're
You're
calling it
lying.
like Borderlands or something.
Oh, I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I would have heard about something like that. Yeah, I know little to nothing about Borderlands, but I'm all for it. Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm not the biggest Kevin Hart movie fan.
Hmm.
It feels like he's just doing anything nowadays, but this looks like it's more in his wheelhouse. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna check it out.
Ariana Greenblatt, who was in Barbie, she was Tiny Gamora, and she was also Ahsoka in the Ahsoka
Oh,
series, and she was in
nice.
Barbie. Right? Did I mention that?
You did mention that.
Also Jamie Lee Curtis,
Yep.
and I'm forgetting the actor Florian, the guy that played Dolph Lundgren's son in Creed.
That's
He's the
who
guy
that
in the
is.
mask.
I was
Yeah,
wondering. All right, all right.
and also Kate Blanchett, which is kind of
Kate,
surprising she's doing this type of role, but
Hey,
apparently that's the main
they
character.
all like the money. They all like the money, bro. Even though she should probably still have some Lord of the Rings money, right? No?
No,
Maybe?
Lord of the Rings, the payout wasn't as big as you think.
Oh my god. That those films made $1 billion each probably.
Yeah, but they
Pay
weren't
your
even
actors.
expecting that. So
Really?
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like they
and the
knew what they were getting in. I
Sean
feel like
Connery was offered a huge cut, and he turned down Gandalf. He would have been the richest actor in the world if he would have just accepted it. And
wow.
his explanation was he didn't understand the script. It's like those books are decades old. How are you not aware? So I don't know.
Sean Connery as Gandalf. I don't know if I can see that.
Very strange, right?
Very, very strange. All right. Well, let's see here. That'll do it for the Geeky Weekly headlines. If you have a headline of your own, you want to hear about it, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Let's see here. I have one more Movie Pass announcement, not a giveaway, but an announcement. So, tomorrow I'm going to have another live stream of Ghost Heads Radio. That is the Kansas City Geeks Network Ghostbusters stream. That's tomorrow night. We'll be joined by a documentary filmmaker who recently did a film for a chapter up in Minnesota. Um, During the stream, I'm gonna have two giveaways. One that's Ghostbusters related, and one that is not. The first one that's related is we're gonna be giving away this bad boy. Yeah, buddy. We're gonna be giving away
Wow.
a Cinemark Slimer popcorn bucket. Uh, Comes just like you see it here. It is still in the packaging, still with Slimer's cake, still in the bag. So yeah, that's gonna be a giveaway that we're probably gonna be extending through probably the release, I think. But I'll tell you guys how to win that because it's exciting. It's an exciting time for Ghostbusters fans. The movie is right around the corner, and we just cannot wait. Um, Also tomorrow. going to be giving away. Let's
Dune
see
buckets.
here. I wish, right? No. Uh, have a movie ticket giveaway. I believe this is going to be in Houston, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, you know what? No, this might be across the U.S. So this might be open to any cities or any states across the U.S. I will double check before I do the giveaway tomorrow during the stream. However, we're going to be giving away movie passes to a horror film coming out. If I can just get the pictures up. Here we go. Imaginary. Yeah.
Oh,
I told you, kind of Ghostbusters related. Dealing with spooks, ghosts, specters, maybe demons.
it's a Blumhouse
It
film.
it looks sadistic. It looks absolutely insane. So I cannot wait for this. Imaginary. We're gonna be giving away, telling you guys how to win a pair of tickets to go see Imaginary tomorrow during the Ghost Head stream, which will be taking place tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on the Countdown City Geeks Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel. Very cool. All right. Dave, are you ready, sir?
I'm ready. My body's ready.
Here we go, folks. This is the part of the show where we talk about Dune Part 2. David and I were lucky enough to catch an advanced screening yesterday. And if you have not seen it, you're not alone, but we are not going to be spoiling anything regarding the film. So you do not have to turn the stream off first. Uh, Dave, I will start with you. Dune Part 2 starring Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin. I mean, this movie was jam packed. Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, the list goes on and on. I can't forget Christopher Walken, as well as Dave Batista. Your just overview, general thoughts about the movie when you walked out.
It was very close to being relentless. It was very fast, very intense. They dropped a lot of knowledge. The pacing was fast, but it was perfect for the subject matter and for what we were getting in this part two. It is a part two. It's a continuation of part one. I think it picks up right where part one ended, and a lot of ideas and concepts. I'm sure that kind of went over my head while I was processing what I was seeing right in front of me because it's a visual feast. There's a lot more action. And I immediately thought of, wow, you could make a pretty cool Dune video game with some of the action sequences that we saw. I mean, you get a very cool first person shooter could have, or a third person shooter could be derived from it. Um, the casting, I notated that I talked about that on our instant reaction was spot on. They picked the perfect people, and these are the top actors of our time currently. I mean, Christopher Walken as the Emperor, inspired. Florence Pugh as Princess Irulan, his daughter, inspired. Um, and of course, there's an actress that's on the red carpets that I'm not sure if everyone knows she's in it. I thought that was an awesome choice because she looks very otherworldly. Um, and coming away from it, I said in the review that we did, the instant review out of the theater, that it's a lot to digest. I'm gonna have to see it again. I'm gonna see it again Thursday in Dolby, not in IMAX. This film was shot in IMAX, so if you're gonna go see it, try and go see it at an IMAX. But it's 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 impressive. I didn't see the seams of the CGI, of the practical effects they use. I know they built a lot of stuff. There's a lot of science that's interwoven in there. Um, Me being the age that I am, I saw the David Lynch film and I was aware of it. And there are some similarities that are brought out in Dune Part Two. And I think David Lynch's film was essentially Dune Part One and Part Two in one film. So some of the stuff that happens, I was kind of expecting, and it did happen, and it wasn't too much of a shock. We all know there's a big book that was written by Frank Herbert, I think in the '60s, and going into Dune, I think last night was my point of realization of what Dune actually is, but it's having knowledge of all of the books that Frank Herbert has written, and it's something of a parable, I think, and it's very interesting. Dune deals a lot with religion and faith, and I think once you go through the whole series, you kind of see what Frank Herbert was thinking about that deep subject matter. But I'm gonna have to see it again to give it a final judgment. But there's a lot of people saying that this could be the greatest science fiction film of all time.
That's high
So
praise.
it's getting super high praise. The cast is ridiculous. The sound, the score by Hans Zimmer, um, it's all incredible, man. It's great to get something like this, a top tier filmmaker and Denis Villeneuve, a top tier film composer, Hans Zimmer, and that cast you ran off. I mean, an incredible list of actors, an incredible list of creators, and everyone that's doing top work these days was involved. And Greg Fraser, I got to mention Greg Fraser, man, the DP, the director of photography, the guy that held the IMAX camera on his shoulder, the 40-pound IMAX camera. I mean, he's been the DP on Zero Dark 30. Then he did Rogue One. Um, he did The Creator recently. He did Dune Part One. So hopefully he's developed a shorthand with Denny, and hopefully he continues to use him because the cinematography was awesome. It's gonna win a lot of awards, and a lot of people like to point out that okay, Dune Part Two was supposed to come out in 2023, and now Christopher Nolan has whatever lucky stars, Hollywood gods, to think that they moved Dune Part 2 to this year so they won't steal the Academy Awards from Oppenheimer that they're about to win next month. So I'm not so sure if I agree with that. I think maybe some of the awards would be taken away from Oppenheimer, but I think just the pure subject matter that it was like a real circumstance in human history,
Yeah.
um, which is what Oppenheimer was, and not Dune. I think Dune is terrific. Um, and I heard a lot of people say that Dune was a lot like people were saying stuff like, "Oh, this must have been what it felt like when people exited Star Wars after the movie was over. This must have felt like when they saw Return of the King." Those are two of my favorite franchises, my most favorite franchises. I did not feel that way,
Well, you
but
didn't because you've already gone through it. It's like doing anything else for your first time, riding a roller coaster for the first time.
well, with Lord of the Rings, I didn't read those books, and I knew some of the stuff that I was gonna see, and of course, there's a big spoiler for the Two Towers about Gandalf. So, but it took me a while to digest everything because there's a lot of stuff happening. Me, you, and Carl, we talked after the showing, and Carl was bringing up stuff that I didn't even think of because I was still processing what I was seeing. Like I always think about what the director was seeing, where the story might be going. Can I predict what the story's going to do? Can the storytelling outdo what I think or what I may have tried to achieve if I were to make this film? Um, but of course, like I said, there's a Dune movie that exists and there's a book that exists, so I kind of knew where they had to go. But as far as achieving what the Dune story called for, I don't think there was anyone that could have maybe done a better job than Denis Villeneuve and Greg Fraser and that cast and everyone that worked behind the scenes.
All right, here's my general thoughts about the film, and then we'll get into specifics, but nothing plot driven or story driven. Um, the first thing you're going to notice is how gorgeous this movie looks. Uh, Shout out to Greg Fraser, who I've actually met in person. I met him at a showing of The Creator of all things, and that film probably one of the best ever. And this one is like right up there, but in a different way. This is more artistic. This is more avant-garde in a lot of ways. There are some sequences, there are some frames of this movie you've never seen before in any other film, and that's what makes it very special. So you're going to go in and watch this movie, and the first thing you're going to notice while you're watching it is this looks incredible. I'll get to the cast in a minute. That's the first thing. The second thing is the Hans Zimmer score of this movie is just like the best compilation of cinematic music you've ever heard. It's not like his past work where everything is sort of kind of similar sounding. Like I'm gonna throw out some things that are obvious. Like Dark Knight, everything is sort of a variation of one another. Yes, it's still fantastic, but it's like you're watching a Batman film. This one's not like that. He um conducts and composes like just pieces that do not sound like they go in the same movie together, but they're still cohesive and they still highlight what's happening on the film. I'm telling you right now, there's just they're so drastically different, like from scene to scene, or sometimes we're on different planets, sometimes we're dealing with different tribes or different, different people. And so the score is just so drastically different a lot of times, but it's so great. This is probably my favorite movie Hans has composed, I think.
Wow.
When I watch it again, because there's so much variety. Like I mean, every time he does another movie, like it's sort of all in the same tone. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
This one, you heard drastically different things. Different instruments. He's experimenting a lot of the times. Some things sound like dubstep. Some things sound like sort of native instruments and sounds and singing, and they're just so different. You would not think it's all in the same movie. I need to listen to the soundtrack. I don't. You're gonna go through the playlist and be like, "Is this the same movie?" And it really is. So those are the first two things. I I will say I love the music, even though our theater literally had our ears bleeding, almost literally had our ears bleeding because the sound was not nearly well calibrated,
Hmm.
and it was louder than any concert I've been to. Like borderline uncomfortable. I was borderline uncomfortable. So
Yeah,
even with
yeah.
even with that mess up, I was still enjoying the music, despite the fact that I couldn't. My ears were ringing afterwards.
And we got to
Um,
preface all that with you are a music guy, so you're gonna focus on the music.
I I will focus on it when it does enhance a scene as opposed to support a scene. Music will always support a scene. That's what it's there for, but very rarely.
Hmm.
And Hans does it more than anybody. Does it enhance the damn scene? Or who's
Yeah,
your boy
he's
with
a master.
Mandalorian? Ludwig,
Ludwig van
right?
Göransson.
Goranson.
Yes.
He- His music enhances movies. I think Goranson did the Creator, right?
I think he
Don't
did.
quote me on that.
I know he
Let
did
me look.
Oppenheimer. I know he's about to
Oh
win
no,
that
that
Academy
was
Award.
Hans as well.
Oh.
Oh wait, sorry, no, no, he might have done it. No, no, no. I was looking at the wrong page.
Okay.
I was looking at the wrong page. But I'm gonna go check it out right
Yeah, I
now.
was gonna say
Anyways,
that
yeah,
what you brought up the
Goranson is
music
one of those
there.
guys.
Yeah, and I know the mandate by Denny Villeneuve to Hans Zimmer for part one was that he wanted something sounding otherworldly, and that's when Hans Zimmer was able to experiment and do stuff out of the norm for the score, and I think he continued that on with part two.
Okay, Goranson did not do Creator. That was also Zimmer. Let's see here. What else? Okay, cast. Let's get to cast now. Um, I am not sure why Timothy
Chalamet.
gets as much praise. Uh,
Oh,
up leading up to this movie. I
yeah.
I didn't see it. I haven't seen
Oh,
all of his
oh.
stuff, so maybe I'm missing some key projects, but a lot of people hold him in high regard. I'm like, I haven't seen it yet, and I've seen him in a few things, but not. This is the one. This is the one where I'm like, okay, this kid's got something, and I still say kid because he looks so young. Um, but this one, he flexes his acting chops. He's doing things in this movie. He's conveying emotions in this movie I've not seen him do before. If he has done it before, I apologize for not watching it before, but this is it. I get it now. I see it. I haven't seen all of his work, but I'm going to say this is probably his best. If you have seen all his work, let me know what his best work is from before, but I feel like this is the one.
Have you seen
He
the Call Me by Your Name
outshines.
movie with
I have
Army
not.
Hammer? Okay, I haven't either.
No. This one, he outshines a lot of big names that he shares the screen with. I mean, there's some heavy hitters in here. Um, you know what? I've loved Javier Bardem since No Country for Old Men. He's arguably the greatest villain in cinematic history. No offense to any of the guys who've played the Joker before,
Darth
but
Vader.
no offense to Dark Vader, but I rather face Vader than face Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men.
With his nail gun.
So that cattle thing, yeah,
Yeah, the
man,
cattle
that
prod,
thing, whatever that
the cattle
was,
gun, whatever you call it.
cattle gun,
And then with
yeah.
this coin,
Hey, you know what?
call it.
Why didn't listen? This is the reason why Warner Brothers doesn't make good decisions. You could have had this guy playing Harvey Dent at any point in time, and
Oh,
nobody would have complained. Nobody would have said, "What, that guy?" No, we've seen what the what he can do,
yeah.
how he can flip a coin and just terrify a person with about it. Oof. All right. Anyways, it's a great cast. They're asked to do a lot in this movie, and they nail it. So the story's great, and I haven't even talked about the visuals yet, have I? I did a little bit. I said the cinematography is fantastic. The special effects, though, special effects, hands down, incredible.
Hmm.
I think somebody might have mentioned Carl mentioned there was something he didn't like. I didn't see anything wrong with the special effects. I really did not.
It felt pretty
Everything
perfect to me. Spot on. I didn't see any
spot
complaints
on,
anywhere. Yeah.
spot on. And the special effects include things like gigantic sandworms. That's not a spoiler. That was in the last movie. And so, yeah, like when you're dealing with unknown creatures and you have to make things happen and look a certain way on the screen, it's a challenge, but freaking killed it. It looks spectacular. So I absolutely loved it. There's a few sequences in this movie where I don't want to spoil anything. Where there's some scenes, not a chase scene, but there's some like very fast motion scenes, and the camera's going, pretty quickly through a scene, and just the special effects and how they did everything. Probably some of it was practical in that regard, but it just looked incredible. So the special effects, second to none. I think they did a fantastic job. Sh- Denny and everybody else involved were on the top of their game. I mean, this is a big, epic odyssey of a film, and it's a challenge, but they killed it. They did it. They did a great job. I think everybody did great. I I will do I have any bad things to say about it? Okay, there's no spoilers. I will admit there was probably one when I talked about it afterwards where I said like I would think this revelation would impact people a little more. It was towards the end of the film, so I
Yeah.
guess a lot had already happened, but I'm not gonna
It
spoil anything. But there was just one or two super minor, doesn't make or break the film occurrences where I'm just like, I would think this would kind of resonate more with people on the screen when in the scene, and it didn't. So I would just say on like two minor occasions, there were just things that felt out of place. And Other than that, the rest of the film is spectacular. It's an epic film of giant proportions, and just loved it. Loved it.
So you think Chalamet's performance was better than anyone's performance in that movie?
Oh, I was saying better than anything I've seen him in.
Okay. So where do you rank him in performance in the movie? Who had the best performance, you think?
Probably Mickelson.
In Doom Part 2?
Yeah. No,
Mickelson.
it wasn't. I'm thinking of Mads Mikkelsen. It was um Sarsgaard,
Yeah.
Stellan Skarsgård.
Man, I was thinking Javier Bardem had the best performance in this film.
I think those are my top three. Those
Yeah.
those those dudes. I think Rebecca Ferguson had a lot
I
of
think
really
she
great stuff to do.
I would say the same thing you said for Timothy for Rebecca Ferguson. I've never seen her act this well. And
You know
uh,
what though? When she was in that,
the
you know
pod,
what? No, not the pot. What is that?
remember they put her in that pod and she had like a little window and the camera like zoomed up to her. It's in the commercials.
Oh no, I was gonna say I absolutely loved her in Doctor Sleep,
Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, yeah, with
dude.
Ewan McGregor. Yeah,
Oh
she
my
was really good
god,
in that. Yeah,
I was almost as terrified of her in Doctor Sleep as I was Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men.
yeah, yeah. She showed her chops there, but I mean that's a very undercelebrated film though.
It really is. What are
Yeah.
you people doing? You need to watch Doctor Sleep. That was like a really dark X Men film. Is how I described it to people
Hmm.
after I'd seen it.
It was a sequel to
Because
The Shining.
yeah, it was a sequel to The Shining, and it felt like a really dark X Men story. And I'm like, ooh, I love this. When you put it in that frame of mind, it's like, ooh, this is really awesome. Yeah, Rebecca did fantastic. Yeah, I
Batista
think
was solid. I think Austin Butler also had a great performance because I think every time he got on screen, you were just focused on him because you knew he was psychotic. You knew that. I mean, going in, Denny Villeneuve gave him the direction that he wanted to see someone that had a psychosis mixed with a couple other things and Mick Jagger. That was one of his directions. I didn't see much of the Mick Jagger. Maybe when he put the tongue out, and that's in the commercials in the trailer. So, but other than that, I mean, and those visuals on Giddy Prime, that celebration when they then you see the entire city, and you see a familiar celebration, but it's in a different context because their sun is black, and Carl pointed this out. So
yeah,
everything that should have been bright was black, and vice versa. That was very neat.
yeah. I wonder if you when we after we saw it, I had said there's actually some frames of this movie that remind me very much of some Star Wars films, and it's actually not like one like trilogy or one era of Star Wars.
Yeah,
I felt like I saw similar frames from like different decades of Star Wars, and I thought not an Easter egg, almost like paying homage. Like, and I know a lot of these sci-fi stories, I know they are all inspired from one another and all that, but like
yeah,
cinematically, the design of the sets and stuff like that were very reminiscent of some Star Wars shots in the past. And I think they're spot on. I think people will pick up on it. I really do. So I
yeah.
think it's just a nice homage that they paid to Star Wars.
It reminds me of the whole Thanos coming before Darkseid in live action. Star Wars came before Dune in live action, but Dune was really something that inspired George Lucas, and there's a lot of similarities to Star Wars with like the spice, the people in the sand.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. The voice was essentially the Force in Star Wars. Um, but yeah, it's one of the most hailed science fiction novels of all time. and in the hands of a great filmmaker. Yeah, it was terrific, and hopefully there's a part three coming up. Apparently, Denis Villeneuve is writing it. He might not direct. He might direct it, but he might not. Um,
It's a massive undertaking to direct a film like this.
yeah, yeah. And I think in an interview, Denis Villeneuve said that he's not sure if he wants to spend 10 years of his life on Dune, but he does love Dune. He was one of the guys that was trying to get studios to make it because he loved the books so much and he was obsessed with them when he was younger. And there's actually a
No,
documentary. If you go out there and search on YouTube, he's a very, very young filmmaker. He's a very young looking man. And he talks about Dune, about hoping to one day make, because they ask him what's his dream project, and he says Dune. And he was like in his
but
20s
he
or
doesn't want to
something.
spend 10 years on it.
Well, I mean, you get older. I mean, you figure, I mean,
That's, you know what that is? A negotiation tactic, baby.
yeah,
I'm not
if
sure, Warner Brothers. I'm not really sure if I want to do this again unless you make it worth my while. Wink, wink.
yeah,
Yeah.
if Dune Part 2 wins the Academy Award for best film, I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to pay Denis Villeneuve to come back and be like, yeah, you got to finish this trilogy off, buddy.
Warner Brothers does not care about awards because they had that great series on HBO Max, and of course, I'm not gonna remember right now. Um,
Yeah, but I
Lost
think
Country.
the awards is gonna feed into how many people actually do see the film, though, because
I
like we
gotcha.
talked about, this isn't a four quadrant film. This isn't for little kids. This really isn't for the
Definitely not.
elderly. It's really that one sweet spot. It's like 18 to 45-year-old demographic kind of.
Explain four quadrant films for the audience who might not be aware.
So four quadrant films. That's four sections of the general population. So you have your first quadrant, which is the G audience. You can go to the ratings. The G audience, which is 0 to 12, and then you have your PG-13 audience, which you want to be like 13 up to whatever age, but we're talking quadrant, so you would say I would say 13 to 45, somewhere around there. And then you have the older audience, which are the grandparents, which would be in the 50, the young grandparents, the 50 range on up. So you get the little kids, the teens, the preteens, the tweens, the young adults, the adults, and yeah, that's essentially the four quadrants there. So like Star Wars is a
And
four quadrant film. So you could
100%.
the original trilogy was rated PG, so it has parental guidance.
Is this one rated R? No, it's PG-13. That's surprising.
Whoa, really?
That is surprising. Yeah, especially with some of Austin Butler's kills looked pretty gory.
Interesting.
Well, you would also, this isn't a spoiler per se, but any romantic scenes were definitely um, minimal in this film
Okay.
as much as possible.
Yeah, that's an achievement in and of itself. We thought it was R. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Very,
mean
very much
the
theater of the mind type stuff.
language was it couldn't be, like Earth
There are no curse words in
language.
the far off future.
No, they don't talk like us. They have their own words for that probably. So, anywho, yeah,
Interesting.
surprising that it's PG-13. I will say that young audience, the youth, they're not going to have the attention span for this. At times, it is not a bore, but there are sequences there are times where it's very slow paced. It's a lot of dialogue. Um, I will say the action happened more frequently than I thought it would.
Hmm.
Like they would sprinkle in action sequences every 10 minutes. There was more fighting than I expected. And I know that this is portrayed as like a big battle or whatever. You can see that in the trailer, but way more fighting than I anticipated. Some were kind of short, but some were also very creative. That's what I really like. I love a good strategic war movie. um, um, oh,
A
what's that one
science
with
fiction
Orlando
war movie?
Bloom? Not a science fiction one. Orlando Bloom, Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah,
Solid strategic war movie. That was just battles of chess nonstop. This is kind of
yeah,
like that in where they're always sort of trying to gain an advantage on the I'll just say their enemies. You know what? Here's not a spoiler, but oh no, I can't say it. I don't even want to raise a question because then people are going to think about it. We'll probably have a spoilerish episode next week just to kind of get into some of the plot points because I will say, and I'll tell you after the stream that I was wondering. I can't say it too much. There's one big thought I had in my head um, about our heroes. I'll just say that about our heroes, and we'll,
yeah. We
we'll,
got
we'll
to
go
do a
from there.
spoiler review Friday night because Friday night or Saturday night because everyone's gonna go see this because the build up, the hype, the hyperbole for this film is just massive. I mean, greatest sci-fi movie of all time. You're gonna feel like
Hmm.
Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. I mean, those comments are being said out there by big time reviewers out there. So
Now's a great time to get into our Geekcast ratings. Geekcast ratings are 1 to 5 scale. 5 being the greatest sci-fi movie of all time. Back to the Future sci-fi, I think it is.
yeah,
Time travel, and 1 being hmm, I can't think of a one. Oof, what Battlefield Earth? Sorry, Travolta. Sorry, buddy. But yeah, let's hear from you first, man. 1 to 5 scale. What do you give Dune Part Two?
can I give like decimal points?
Oh, of course, that's what we
Okay,
do here.
man, I want to give it a 4.5.
Hmm.
That's after my first viewing. My second viewing will be in Dolby, and hopefully the sound will be turned down a little bit so where it's not on the verge of my ears bleeding. But
You can
I
still
really
hear
do
it.
want to focus now that you said that on the podcast that the score is something to really focus on, and to me it's the visuals. I'm trying to process what's going on and what could be and what will be and what I would have done and all that. So yeah, I mean everything from the casting, the visuals, the directing, um, the score was great. I mean, you could tell it's a continuation from part one. Um, the pacing, man, I can't say enough about the pacing. It it real the movie, pun intended, flowed. So so yeah, it's about as good a Dune film I think you can expect from a top tier filmmaker like Denis Villeneuve. So yeah.
Denny and cinematographer Mr. Greg Fraser,
Yep.
who I need to I need to contact and be like, Greg, let's talk.
You know, Greg,
Uh,
he's very very talkative. He actually
he is.
put a Dune book together of all of his Polaroids he took, and
Oh
Josh
wow,
Brolin wrote the forward for it. And it's got a really cool cover. It spells out Dune, and the letters are kind of staggered. I think the front of the book is like silver, and it's not out yet, but it will be out. And I kind of want to take a peek at it. And Greg Fraser sounds like a totally cool guy.
very cool guy. Super nice, very down to earth. Um, super talented individual.
Get him on the podcast,
How
Greg.
you how you I'm thinking about it. How you go from he actually offered, so I just need to call him up. Sorry, we've been busy. We've been busy. How you go from the creator to Dune Part Two and just completely like hit the target both times, the bullseye both times is an achievement in and of itself. My rating, which is going to be not very dramatic because you stole mine, 4.5 as well.
Okay.
And here's the only thing I will say about this movie, because I've already talked about the visuals are incredible, immaculate. It looks immaculate. The sound, the score is just like, and it's very unique in that I've not heard such a variety of music in one movie ever. I don't think.
Mhm.
I already said the acting was great, the story was great. I was not emotionally invested as much as I wanted to be in what was happening. And
Yeah, I think that's my issue too.
that is my only minor knock on it. And I don't know how
Okay.
you achieve that. I think I was, you know what? I mean, I'll be honest, it's not a knock on the film. I was more emotionally invested in the first movie because of like the characters that we were losing. And that's why I was so much more emotionally invested in the first one
Yeah.
than this one. So that's not a knock, like I said, but that's where the half of a point I would give you that half if I could say, you know what, that this movie had me just like either cheering or bawling by the end of the movie. That didn't happen. So not a knock. Still a 4.5 Geekcast rating, which is one of our highest ever, for sure. We want to hear from you guys. Once you've seen the movie, or if you have already seen it, please give us your own Geekcast rating, 1 to 5 scale. Awesome. Dave, this has been a great episode, man. If you guys are just now joining us, this is the end of our show. You've missed our announcement. We are giving away movie passes to Arthur the King, which features Mark Wahlberg and Simu Liu and a cute little dog. The movie is about I believe it's an ultra marathon runner that comes across a stray dog
Mhm.
on his travels, his competition, and the movie goes on from there. And the stray dog just won't leave them, and I really hope it has a happy ending because if not, I'm going to be a mess. But if you're in the San Antonio or the Houston area, head on over to our website, countdowncitygeeks.com, and now's your opportunity to go and grab those tickets. If you are not subscribed to us on social media, I don't know why. We gave out passes to this movie that we talked about, Dune. We gave out passes to Kung Fu Panda earlier this week. Those sold out probably like within a half hour. And now we're giving out passes to Arthur the King. And tomorrow, if you missed that announcement, tomorrow we are giving out passes to Imaginary. That will be open to anyone across the United States. And let's see here. That will be given away during our Ghost Heads Radio live stream. Where we're going to be talking with the filmmaker documentarian who did a movie following one of my friends, the uh, Twin Ports Ghostbusters up in Minnesota. Fantastic group. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, if you have not already, we've had an incredible first couple of months. Um, earlier this earlier this month, we had the privilege of interviewing Catherine Mary Stewart, fantastic actress. You remember her from The Last Starfighter and Weekend at Bernie's. You can find that interview on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. And then, if you haven't seen it yet, we also interview the wonderful Alana Ubach, who is in the new TED series on Peacock, which is hilarious. If you've not seen it because you weren't sure if you were going to like it, I promise you, you're going to fall on the floor laughing. It is so funny. And Alana has just an incredible just career span. She's been in everything from Sister Act films, Legally Blonde. She's done just so much. She's fantastic. She was Mama Imelda in Coco, which is one of my favorite animated movies. She's just a sweetheart, and we had a fantastic interview with her. So if you have not seen those interviews, I highly recommend you go check them out. You can do that on our website or on any of our video channels on Facebook or on YouTube. Man, we've had a busy year and it's only February. Only February, Dave. Oh my God.
Yeah, pretty
Uh,
crazy.
yeah. I haven't even talked about the events we have coming up. Look, um, Superhero Comic Con is the largest, probably Texas event this year. It's a comic convention that's going to have just the absolute biggest starred cast you can imagine. Of course, I'm leaving out some of the two like major ones, San Diego and New York, but it's probably going to be right below those two. So follow us to find out when those announcements were made. They're going to be made any day now. Any day we're gonna get the A-list announcements from Superhero Comic Con, and it's just gonna send the internet on fire because I've heard some rumors on who they're gonna be bringing to San Antonio for this event, which takes place in June 21st through the 24th, I believe is when it is. And if the rumors are true, I'm not going to spoil anything in case it doesn't happen. If the rumors are true, believe you me, it's going to be an absolutely epic time. June 20th through the 23rd is what it is. Yeah, Superhero Comic Con. So stay tuned because a lot more is coming along the way. Plenty more events to talk about. Be sure to join me tomorrow on the Ghost Heads Radio Show because we have Ghostbuster announcements to make, some events that are taking place in the San Antonio area. And I'm also going to tell you how you can join us for a San Antonio premiere of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. We are holding our own advanced screening for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And I can't believe I'm saying that. It's just going to be great. I cannot wait. Uh, for the Geekcast, my name is Ted, aka Steady. This man over here is the great David from the Star Wars Stuff podcast. And thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate you all. We will see you next time. David, any final words for the audience out there?
Go check out Dune Part 2. I think you'll like it a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching, folks. We love you. And one more time, a shout out to our sponsor, Real Retro.
Retro is San Antonio's most popular 80s and 90s retro store. Band tees, stickers, records, DVDs, jewelry, novelties, electronics, collectibles. Real Retro is your #1 source back to the 80s and 90s. Come relive the best years of your life. Real Retro,